Hello, and welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
And I am Nick Mielke from Podcast of the Wills and the SSWnetwork.com.
Yes, thanks for coming back again, Nick. We've got a continuation of this lightsaber duel, such as it is, continuing today. So happy to have you back for it. Let me tell you that this is minute 82 of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. 82 starts with Kylo Ren about to deliver the killing blow, and then it ends with R2-D2 crying.
Aww.
You will believe a droid can cry.
R2 boo-hoo. Boo-hoo D2 is what they call him now.
There you go.
D2. What they used to call him in middle school.
Oh, man.
I would, you think R2 was?
He was kind of a scofflaw, but he wasn't. I think he was not. Maybe I'm projecting. Maybe he was like not cool enough to hang out with the cool kids, but still cool enough to get in some trouble and do some cut some classes and whatever else. So
I mean, he spends all his time with 3PO, so clearly he's not one of the cool kids. No offense, 3PO.
I don't think he's listening, so it's all right. I gotta say, I do like the. We'll call it a graphic match. We'll dig at if we want to use that cinema studies term. I believe it fits the graphic match between cutting from Kylo Ren's kind of pose in the corner there, and then straight cut to Leia's silhouette from behind. Probably we can assume that maybe this was Kayla Kokonik standing in as a body double. But we get I like that. The match between them, as we cut from one to the other, they're in the same part of the screen, similar kind of, composition of frame, and then it's like it hammers home what we're getting at here is that, deep down inside, Kylo Ren is still Ben Solo, and it's like playing on that kind of family connection, and then and kind of intimating also what's happening with what Leia is kind of about to do, what she's pulling here, kind of spotlighting that connection by just making it, a clear cut, boom, boom, from one to the other in the same position. I like it. I like it. Cinematically, I like it.
I agree. It's gorgeous. And, as somebody who grew up with Princess Leia from literally my entire life, and to come into this minute and to know, what this means, certainly in the story, but also for us with Carrie Fisher, what it meant, in real life to lose her when we did. I wasn't fully prepared for this minute to hit me quite as hard as it did, just in, what that loss means, not only for us in the real world, but for Princess Leia, who is one of our heroes. And so it really was done, in a beautiful way. And I agree with you, the intercutting back and forth between how they set the shot up and what that ultimately, the sacrifice that she made rings true to the character, of course. And we get little teases of that, previously. I guess we get it in Last Jedi, with the moment on the bridge when Kylo's flying and attacking, the ship that they're on. There's those hesitations and the realization that the connection is still there. Of course, as a mother, she always has a longing for her son. And, now it's actually, I think, deepened because there's a connection to Rey as well, which, just deepens the dyad aspect of it because Rey is connected to Leia. Ben is connected to Leia in a different way. But, I didn't know this 1 minute would have me quite in my feels as it did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can assume, unless, Alex, you had something to say about the structure of the shot, but I mean, I think we can assume that the original intent of this was going to be, Leia, almost like Luke in The Last Jedi, where Leia was going to be the one to appear and talk to Kylo Ren, talk to Ben Solo, and be, have this speech. But obviously we couldn't do that And so instead, it ends up, it's a little bit, I mean, they did, I think, as well as they could do. And, if, it's
It's a tough position
you got
to be in.
got a pretty amazing pinch hitter there in Harrison Ford showing up unexpectedly. But it is, if you look at it, if you step outside of your emotions for a second and look at it, it is weird that, like, I mean, Leia's basically using the Force to distract him for a second, so Rey can kill him, more or less. She's like, crouching over behind him so Rey can push him over, and it's a weird, like, granted, like, let's say she knew, like, okay, well, she's in touch with the Force here, and she knows that Rey will do the right thing and whatever else, but also, like, it is a little weird for her to do that.
Well, I'm assuming she thought that once Ben was distracted, that Rey wouldn't do the evil thing and attack him while his back is turned.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
well, I mean, his
she
back
didn't know he
he's
was
just like distracted. Yeah.
Right, but Leia also didn't take into account that Rey is a Palpatine, so she will definitely use that opportunity to take advantage of that. He's
and we get the
unwise
moments
to lower his defenses.
That's right. Well, and we have the moments, and we certainly see, and I didn't read the novelization, so I don't know if this is addressed maybe in fuller detail. But prior to this, for the most part, Rey is, essentially an advocate for Ben. She wants to take his hand. She wants to, be connected to him. She's trying to help him. She's trying to save him. She's trying to do all these other things. But in this moment, she gives into what seems to be her rage. Like, the distraction caused her to react in a more dark side path than, what she has traditionally done before. And that surprised me a little bit to see, like I said, I don't know what her internal monologue or dialogue was, as regards that. But it was a different take on what we've seen her do up till now.
Ironically, I don't have the novelization with me because now is the kind of time where I would like pull it out and be like, well, let me tell you, she was.
Yeah.
But I don't have it with me, and I can't fill that in right now, unfortunately. So
we can speculate recklessly. That's fine.
So, yeah, exactly.
We're Star Wars fans after all.
Yeah, I do. I like the. In my mind, it's kind of the parallel as this happens. So it's a chain reaction of one kind of into the other. We Kylo Ren's about to lash out. He's got the drop on Rey kind of, and then we see Leia kind of do her thing. She's kind of fondling the metal and lying down and kind of summoning a spirit, as it were. And that moment of connection distracts him enough that then, and I like the way that it plays out too. There's a kind of nice silence to it. Everything drops out, and it's but then like Rey senses her opening, takes it, but then when she does, she also, there's kind of goes through, it kind of continues until tomorrow, but for part of it, it's like she has a moment that this it reminds me a lot of Luke in Return of the Jedi, where he was wrestling with the same thing. He's like, dark side, is that like, I'm afraid of that? What do I do? And then when he is kind of tested in it, like, and here when Rey is kind of, tested, she's lashing out in rage, and then realizes like, oh, that, like the way that Luke looked at his hand and Darth Vader's hand was just like, oh, rage gone too far, but I know to stop it. I know where I can cut it off. I know it's, well, literally he knew he could cut it off, but he knew where his breaking point was, and it was just like, oh, okay, I know my boundaries, and I know dark side is over there, and I can stay over here. And I feel like Rey finds that same point here. She's afraid of kind of like, oh, afraid of what's in her, afraid of lashing out the dark side. No, okay, she's like, oh, okay, I just killed this guy who I kind of liked, but I'm not that person. So now I know that's where my limit is, and
and it also mirrors what we see with Luke in Last Jedi as well, with young Kylo, and for all the controversy of, being scared, igniting the saber, immediately having regret, turning it off, and we kind of get that, looking at it from the different angles and the different sides. But we see that in Luke a second time, not only in Return of the Jedi, but in Last Jedi, he has a similar thing. And so I think that is also, I've always interpreted that as being very indicative of the journey of a Jedi. Just like any of us in our real lives, we have to make choices. We know the line between right and wrong. We have to choose how close to it are we going to get. Sometimes if we go too far one side, do we course correct? It speaks to the very human nature of the story, if I'm getting really nerdy and digging into it about it. And we've seen it, several times.
Nor the place.
That's right. What do I think I'm doing here? But it rings true, certainly to someone she admired like Luke, even for the little bit of time that she knew him and was around him. To see those parallels with a master, it rings to me even, when Luke's talking to Yoda and he gives the line that is so prescient in my life as a father of 4 daughters when he says, we are what they grow beyond. That's the true burden of a master. She's growing beyond her master, but she's still dealing with difficulty and hard times as she does it. So I like that moment a lot.
Totally. I just realized looking at the notes for this, I think I stole some of my material from tomorrow for this thing, because the chain of events here, we get Leia reaches out, Ben gets distracted, then Leia dies first, right? Or does that?
Yeah, Leia's.
Does Rey?
Yeah, she lays back.
But when does Rey skewer Kylo Ren in this minute, or is it tomorrow?
It's in this minute.
In this one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got worried. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know what's up. But yeah, but which happens first? Leia dies first.
Leia dies because she says Leia. As I did a word count yesterday, there's a 2-word count in today's minute. It's Ben and it's Leia. Count. Those are the only 2 words in this minute. But yeah, she says Leia because she realizes it, and that's when the rage hits and she stabs him in that moment right after.
Right.
No, okay. I think it's the opposite. I think
the opposite?
Stabs her and then realizes because it's almost like she stabs her and like, oh, why isn't he? And then she's like, it hits. She stabs him and then it hits her.
But the distraction. So she reaches out and distracts him momentarily before she does. That's her act.
Yes, that's her act.
It's like a chain reaction. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because that does go with. I mean, I like Rey. I like that Rey also kind of feels Leia's death in the Force. She's got that same. And I'm assuming that she's feeling that because of their connection or because of her connection to the Force, not because she's on a conference call with her dyad buddy. Basically.
Maybe we don't know. I mean, it doesn't hit her. Maybe because Kylo Ren is closer to Leia, it gets him first, and then. I mean, physically closer, like he's literally in between Rey and the, Leia dying.
Although
the fact that they stopped fighting, to me, it seemed like they were like kids play fighting, and then someone really got hurt. So they're like, okay, time out, everyone, time out. Let's stop and we don't we're not really fighting. Yeah.
So, literally, somebody's mom calls them.
Yeah, it's true. I really like the death of the stabbing of Kylo Ren. Obviously, he doesn't kick the bucket.
Stabbing of Kylo Ren,
a Lifetime movie. Because it neatly parallels the death of Han Solo, the fact that he gets stabbed right through the chest with the red blade, and it also echoes the death of Qui-Gon Jinn, the first Jedi we saw get stabbed, and of course the wounding of the third sister Reva in the Obi-Wan series. We all remember that that time. But why does Rey? Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate to you in this moment, ever so briefly, because we see Han Solo get stabbed. And he falls off the balcony and he dies. So it technically necessarily wasn't the lightsaber that killed him. It was the fall that killed him. Kylo managed to fall and land against a version of a railing. So I'm going back to what I said yesterday, and I'm blaming the lack of railings in Star Wars for the death of Han Solo. Because if he had something to lean on and maybe catch himself, he might have been okay. But he got stabbed and immediately fell over, where Kylo got stabbed and he had something to fall and lean on. So I blame Space OSHA for this.
OSHA of Bestoon.
OSHA of Bestoon. That's the one.
That's got to be another, imagine Rey, we all have these moments where it's like, oh, hindsight, if only I knew then, or if only I, like this thing that I just, that I just got, or this thing that I just did, like that I just learned how to do. If I had just gotten to that a little bit earlier, like, my life would have been different. And like Rey's got to have that a little bit with just like, oh, like now I can heal somebody getting run through with a lightsaber. Like my friend who I really admired and was a hero to everybody. That just happened to him like 2 years ago, or not even. I don't know. She's like, if I would have gotten to that chapter sooner.
Why do you think Rey stabs him with his own lightsaber instead of her lightsaber? Or Anakin's lightsaber, depending on your point of view. Like she grabs it and then stabs him. And the only thing I can think of, there's two things I can think of. A, it's extra humiliating to be stabbed by your own lightsaber. And B, it's kind of hinting that this is her dark side. The fact that she's using a red-bladed lightsaber is evidence that this is like bad juju. Like she shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. I mean, I can't help but think it would be more embarrassing, infuriating if she did it with the lightsaber that Kylo Ren was, that's mine. Like that, his whole thing that he really wanted that. They fought over it, it broke, and then she not only did she put it back together, but then she like killed it. She'd be like, oh, here, you can have that. You can have it back now. And, like run him through the gut with it.
I guess with a hiltless lightsaber, could you throw it through someone? You know what I mean? Like if the lightsaber was going straight through, would the hilt and everything just keep going through? Could you use the Force to shoot a lightsaber at somebody?
Well, now we're getting to the gun that shoots lightsabers. So
and speaking of the gun that shoots lightsabers, because that's something that I certainly picked up because of you gentlemen years ago. I brought that up not too distant past on another podcast, and it was pointed out to me that apparently does exist in some form or fashion. And I can't give you the reference now, but whether it's High Republic or some other new thing that I've not spent enough time with, apparently the gun that shoots lightsabers is indeed a thing. So congratulations.
And it's canonical.
That's right.
Wow.
We got there. We didn't think, we never thought we would do it, but
we knew you could do it. We believed in you.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. I wanted to add another note just to Leia's passing. Of course, like you said, Pete, it was shot in a really interesting way. The shadow, the laying back, the holding the medal, something that we all connected to, certainly from the original trilogy. But when I watched it again today, seeing that minute, I was brought back to the three-eyed raven and his comment in The Force Awakens when he says at the beginning, Poe refers to as a general, and he says, to me, she's royalty. And that line just popped into my head again because of the emotional connection that I have to Princess Leia and Carrie Fisher. It was a very regal death, I guess, in a way, to be in that isolated moment, quiet, dark, not chaos, and still doing something that was very, self-sacrificing, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, as Star Wars is, of course, it adds an added sadness because Carrie Fisher passed in real life. But in terms of the characters, that's about as good a death as you can hope for in Star Wars. Like dying in a calm place surrounded by a lot of people who like you. I wouldn't. Right. Some of them probably do love her as well, but that's probably about as good as it can possibly.
Yeah, she got the better end of the deal than, let's say, Qui-Gon or Maul.
Yeah. Although Maul...
I would say Maul's actual death was actually pretty decent. If we flash into Rebels and how that all turns out.
Don't.
We just started watching Rebels, so...
Well, it doesn't happen. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there you go. If anybody noticed my Long Island slip out there for a second, when I have a hard time saying the word Maul without turning it into... Maul. I said Maul.
I have one other thing about Leia's death regarding you said originally, or we can conjecture that originally it was going to be Carrie Fisher showing up as a ghost here to talk to Kylo. And what I really like about that is it's a kind of ring theory with her sending the message to Obi-Wan way, way, way back in the motion picture. Like her showing up remotely to give a message to someone is like
to someone named Ben.
Yeah, yeah, that's even weirder. So it should have been a hologram. R2 should have. I guess they did that.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did that gimmick last movie though,
Yeah.
so they couldn't do it again. They could, but it would be weak.
Yeah, we'd all complain.
Yeah, that would be the one thing that would have ruined the movie.
The first complaint in Star Wars ever, right there.
Mm-hmm.
The other bit of ring theory is R2 looking over Princess Leia. It reminded me of R2 watching over Padme in Attack
I
of
thought
the
that
Clones.
too. Yeah,
So yeah,
not when she dies, but when she's sleeping.
yeah,
Yeah.
She's only sleeping.
Right. She's just asleep.
That's all I have for minute number 82.
Yeah, like I said, I accidentally stole some of my material for tomorrow, so we'll see what tomorrow's episode is like. But
Just keep stealing from the next day and just
yeah, it
till the
keeps
end
going
of,
into like so the credits, huh? No, there's still stuff to talk about, obviously tomorrow. So we'll
totally.
Well, and my last thought was just not necessarily to this minute specific, but to the loss of Carrie Fisher. I've shared this story many times on our podcast. I was able to go to Celebration in Orlando in 2017, which was in, I think, April that year, right after Carrie Fisher had died, I think in December. And so it was still really fresh. It was still really new. And I was lucky enough to be on the floor at the live stage when Billie Lourd came out, and she was just dressed in that kind of basic white dress. And she recited the monologue from New Hope from the very beginning that she sends to Obi-Wan. And it was one of the most, I mean, I've had a million amazing moments in the Star Wars fandom and certainly in the last few years with podcasting. But to stand in that room and listen to this woman who had lost her mother within a recently short period of time come out, recite this iconic thing that she's known for was really a very, very powerful moment. And I'll always be humbled to know that I got to be there and be present for that. It was really something neat.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. I was trying to remember what. I think I was at a hockey game when I saw the kind of alert because it was winter. It was like just
Yeah, it was
Christmas,
December.
I think. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I was at a hockey game going to, and with a friend of mine, and we kind of got that like alert. It was like, oh, Carrie Fisher because she had a heart attack on the plane or something like that at first,
Yes.
and it was just like, oh man, like that was like this weird like pre-alert of like, oh, our some of our heroes are mortal. Damn, like.
Yeah, I don't remember where I was, so I'm a jerk.
No, that's okay. We knew you were a heartless monster anyway. Well, on that note, let's find out tomorrow. Nick, can you come back tomorrow?
I would be honored to come back tomorrow.
All right. Well, that's good because we're going to need to talk about something because we used up all my notes. But yeah, come back tomorrow, listeners. If you can come back tomorrow, hey, but before you do, we talked about Smokey and the Bantha, or is it Snooki? No, Smokey and the Bantha.
Smokey and the Bantha.
Snooki and the Bantha.
That could work too.
Is that putting a hat on a hat? Is that overkill? I don't know. We'll see. It might just be the kind of weird stuff that we need that we put up often over on StarWarsMinute.com/merch. We got all kinds of weird ideas. Like I said, it's hard to say that something is a bridge too far when we've got two different shirts for Lieutenant Mataka. So go there, check out our stuff. It's not just shirts, remember. You can get some travel mugs, some notebooks. They added a couple of new things recently that I just saw. And I was like, oh hey. But yeah, all our designs that we can find are up on our store, StarWarsMinute.com/merch on the Threadless. So go check it out, buy something, will ya? And we'll meet you back here tomorrow for a brand new Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.